Great. So, Arun, we can start now?
I am absolutely okay.
Okay, great. So, good afternoon, everyone. This is Sanjeev Mota from BNK Securities. On behalf of BNK, I welcome you all to another session of our fireside chat. We have with us Mr. Arun Agarwal, Group CFO of Mastech. Welcome, Arun, to this fireside chat, and thank you for giving us your valuable time.
Thanks, Sanjeev.
Yeah. We also have Head of IT Sector, Devashish Majumdar, and we have from Mastech, Ms. Damini Junjanwala as well. What we'll do, Arun, is we'll start this with I'll ask you a few questions which are more macro and organizational, and then Devashish has a lot of questions also. So we'll do it that way. And if anyone has any other questions, can you please put it on the Q&A and we'll make sure we'll ask those questions. Yes. So Arun, thanks again. And so let's start with a very basic question. This is worrying or not worrying, I would say. This is actually a positive thing, but has been a lot of investors have been thinking that, if you go back 2-3 years ago, the conventional wisdom was that very large players will become large. The smaller, relatively smaller players will kind of, either stagnate or fade away. That whole theory in last 2 years has turned on its head. And even anecdotally, what we were hearing was that clients are saying that we only want to deal with one vendor and one large vendor and so on. What has changed? What has gone on? Why is this sudden, excitement?
Okay. No, that's pretty good point, Sanjeev. And we were talking about a lot of market consolidation in the IT space.
Yeah.
Like 3-4 years back. The big five, big six will survive. Otherwise, maybe 5 to 10, there'll be consolidation between them, and the larger player will emerge. But industry has seen lots and lots of changes, and when IT has become too disruptive internally as well, and the digital world, the whole concept of digital, which has become so evolved in last 5 years, you would have seen, now there's no conventional or old model of IT which is getting implemented. Now there's a newer and newer methodology, and it's a combination of both product and SaaS-driven solutions which is being implemented to drive broader solution from the customer perspective. And also, if you see, and that's what we see as well internally, if you go and talk to any customer saying, I can deliver technologies, I don't think any customer is interested anymore. They're interested in business outcome, not IT outcome. They're talking about what can you solve for me? Do you understand my business? Do you understand, how can I go and increase my customer base? Do you understand how can I solve my supply side of issues? And so on and so forth. So now there's no more IT. IT is more about business solutions, where IT has become so different, and so many new products, so many new services which are coming, the SaaS, the PaaS, the different models which has involved.
Right.
Earlier, the cloud was seen as a cost solution. I don't think anyone is talking cloud as a cost solution anymore. They're talking about as a business enabler. You can work anywhere, and with with different kind of security which is coming in place, it's getting much more acceptable across. So there's significant disruption which has happened, and the significant disruption, the niche service players like Mastech and so others mid-cap players come with so many strengths there to operate. That's one. And secondly, Sanjeev, what has happened in addition to that, now there's one nimbleness as well. When you work with larger organization, you are one of the customers, but ultimately every customer feels they are important. For example, if I deal with any enterprise customers, for me, it's one of the enterprise customer. But if you go to top 3, for them, it's one of the enterprise customer, right? We talk about top 5 Fortune 500 companies. I will have limited 8 companies with me, but biggest will have multiple, right? So for me, 8 to 10, the 2 are important to me, but they may not be as important for the other bigger players at the same time. So that's probably, I believe, the nimble approach which is helping a lot of mid-cap companies to solve customers' problem. The technology change which has happened, the adoption of SaaS PaaS model, and the agility and the speed at which we can operate. There's a space for all of us to stay. Just giving one more flavor very quickly, we are very, if you see if you dice our business model, we are quite solid in UK public sector. And
Right.
it's an agenda of UK public sector, and it's coming out very vocally. It's there in so many other documentation wherever the public sector speak about. They don't want to work with biggies in isolation, because the reason are there are two-folded reason. One, they become a part of the global bigger contracts, which keep going through change request as and when it comes. And there is a challenge with the speed. While they work with the subject matter experts, they call. So while it could be, for certain parts, the content may be with bigger SIs, but for specific, technology or specific expertise, they want to work with the niche service provider for two things. One, the speed they bring and the solution they bring at the same time to drive their business outcome. So that's to sum up, long answer, Sanjeev, but my reading has been so far, the consolidation was always the thought, but it's not going to happen so easily because there's a room for all of us to play.
No, that's really good. But so I'll come to a question which I was actually going to ask you later. But since you put this, how easy is it to hire people? Because that's another area that we are seeing, a lot of talk that, constraint of people, wages going up, all kind of stuff. So if as a smaller company, how easy or difficult is it to hire people, and do you have to pay up, or how does that work?
So, Sanjeev, so what you are hearing in the market is the fact for all the IT players who are operating in digital. So again, they are both stories. If you want to hire in legacy, I don't think there's a bigger problem. But you want to hire the digital skills, there's a challenge because the demand is much higher than the supply of the people. So there's a challenge, and we also are facing those challenges. Our attrition numbers are going up, which is, it's our quarterly numbers is quite clearly reported.
Yeah.
I think also is a challenge because the wage bill is going up. But there's a twin solution which we are working. I'm sure the other IT companies would be working in the similar tandem. So definitely, as a digital service provider, you need to have lateral workforce hiring as well, because you need certain skills, certain experience which has to come on as availability to you to serve your customers. Those are going to become expensive. At least next 6 to 12 months, I believe this wage war may continue because you need those people. That's one part of it. But what all of us are doing, and specifically Mastek is doing categorically, we are investing significantly in the freshers and the trainees market. We are hiring those people. We have world class. I can take a lot of pride in saying we have very strong training methodology, which graduates people after they join as a fresher to becoming, who can become a shadow resource in 3 months. And after 3 months, they take further 3 months to work in the program, become as competent as 4 to 5 years experienced person. So we have very strong training methodology inside in-house, and that's what we are investing a lot. So even last quarter, we hired 270 or 280 people under freshers category, and the learning curve is going on. So while the supply side shortage will continue for next, I believe at least 12 months, there will be, this challenge. But as these trainees, the curve will start, they become more and more productive. Not by Mastek, I'm sure all other IT companies are doing same thing when teachers announced, talking about the freshers and trainees and then taking them through the learning curve. So in next 12 to 18 months, a lot of supply side problems should start, compensating as this skill set become much more mature, and this methodology become much more robust.
But what does it mean again from us? I'm not talking about Mastek is yet. In terms of system margins, you think that are people able to pass on these kind of cost increase? What's happening?
See, ultimately, customer has to bear the price. So whatever cost. So again, you say in immediate term may not be, customers may not get impacted because you have a lot of old contracts which you are already got into. Now gradually as you go and renegotiate the pricing, the renewals happens, the new contract comes. Most of this will get passed on to customers because it's not one company which is filling it. It's across the IT sector, right? So everyone will change their pricing. And but there's a significant growth which is also coming, isn't it? So
Yeah.
some of your margin challenges will be offset by your growth at the same time.
That's right.
You will leverage your fixed cost.
Of course.
So that efficiency you will pass on to customers. So there'll be good balance, I believe.
Sure. So okay, I guess so. I hear you that next 1 year, 2 years look good. Do you think And whenever I've never read some of the large companies also like a Infosys or a TCS or writing such bullish things about IT that multi-decade, multi-year. What is your thought? Is it something like a pent-up demand that we are we are actually taking this and saying that drawing a longer term curve just based on something short term, or you actually think that this is something long term?
Demand is good, Sanjeev. If you ask me, when my experience in this IT industry last 15 years, the kind of boom which we have seen in 2004, 2005, those kind of time zone, we are seeing a similar kind of pattern coming across. But there's a good demand coming into digital space. If you ask me, legacy, no, everyone is wanting to transform their internal systems, and as I said, with a business outcome. No one wants to transfer just per se for the purpose, let's get into cloud because that sounds cool. No, they're talking about the business outcome. And that's what we and other companies, I'm sure other competition would be doing the same. How can we give those benefits to the customers? And yes, customers are more keen in getting into those journey. So I don't think it's a pent-up demand, but it's a change which has happened, and a lot of it is driven by COVID as well, because now in the new world, you need to approach your customers differently. You need to solve your business problems differently. It's not, old model may not going to work. So if you have not got into cloud, you have to start thinking about the cloud, right? So it's not a pent-up demand, rather I'll say it's a demand change of the global climate completely. And at least the kind of momentum I'm seeing, my take is at least 3 years, I don't see this diluting. And thereafter one new phase will come. Something else will emerge in the IT sector itself. It can be game changer.
So in a way, what I'm hearing from you, you're saying that companies want solutions and rather to their problems rather than an IT solution. So it's more like a business problem. So in a way, are you all becoming more and more like consultants in that sense? Like that convergence of what used to think that Accenture is a consultant, whereas Indian IT is something different. But are you all, everybody in this whole system are becoming more consultants with more domain knowledge, more ability to solve problems?
You got it right. So you may not call it out as a consulting services as such, but you need to have subject matter experts, SMEs, which we call, right? So you going and talking to customer that, I can deliver this IT to you, customer is not interested. They're interested you, for example, if I go and talk to my retail client, they are interested me talking to them saying what your retail industry is going through and how you are different from your competition. And you should do these 10 things to fix this, and I can do it for you.
Right.
That's the conversation change which has happened.
Sure. No, so very, very interesting. So now let's talk about Mastech, how you all are positioned, and I think I'll even start with, so if I look at 2017, today, it's a completely different organization. Sales have gone up 3x, margins have also gone up 3x, return on capital has gone up 4x. What's going on? What has changed in Mastech?
So let me give a quick perspective, Mastech. I'll take 5 minutes on that. So I always call Mastech as a startup with 39 years of heritage. So, after, and there's a reason I call it startup, because that was the game plan of the earlier promoters, so basically promoters and the earlier management to, segregate and emerge product and service company between Majesco and Mastech. I think that was very good thought through process, because earlier it was always a confusion whether you want to invest into product or you want to invest into services, whether you're a product company or a service company. That changed the complete perspective. Now product was focusing on product, and Majesco has generated tremendous return for the investors. That game is over. In terms of services, we were left with $70 million roughly, give or take. And last quarter, we reported $70 million in our numbers. So that's a journey. And then, and when I just give you one anecdote, when I was talking to CEO who recently joined, I said, I'm really glad to mention that. And now our cake is when the 70 million will become a monthly number. So that's how internally Mastech has transformed in 2016, becoming a service company, and to approach market accordingly. A lot of things, good things was done by Mr. Sudhakar Ram. He's no longer with us, but he going into UK and staying for 2 years in 2013, 2015 was also a game changer, because he understood the UK public sector procurement style. And that time the UK government was going through a lot of changes. So a lot of fixation which was done in the model. Mastech was historically more as a sub to BT Capita, Fujitsu and other bigger SIs. Now we work independently with the end customer. Very less portion, less than 5% counts as subcontractor to bigger SIs, and significant is direct. So we have a lot of referenceability, repeatability. Our delivery track record is very, very strong. We are able to touch the complicated and struggle projects and able to revive it. So those kind of track record is helping us to bring a lot of referenceability and repeatability. Our focus on the UK public sector has been to our strength. Acquisition which we have done in the US and specifically the EvoSys acquisition which we have done last year, February 2020, was also a game changer because now what we offer is a complete solution to the customer, adding to it. And Oracle Cloud specifically is booming across a good combination of onshore and offshore mix, which we have been able to gather together, which is helping us not only to generate revenue but also to give good bottom line as well.
Right. That's really great. So, just you talked about founders, but I know you've joined maybe about 5 years ago, so you are not a 39-year legacy in this company. But in terms of what has changed, so how involved are founders today in the firm, and in terms of also in operational independence, what kind of operational independence? Like just trying to understand the culture of the firm a bit.
Sanjeev, let me be honest. As a professional working in the IT industry for the last 16 years, IT specifically, I really found such an open culture, complete operational freedom to the experts who we call ourselves as management. And founders are more strategic in terms of giving the guidance at the board level, saying, this is how they see. And we have Ashank Desai, who is our, who is the founder member of NASSCOM. So coming a lot of industry perspective, a lot of good challenges they are able to give to us. For example, if industry is growing at this percentage, why you are growing at lesser than that? So they become a true challenger, knowing what is happening in the IT background, but operations, day-to-day management, and everything is with the management team. They have given complete freedom.
Right. So I know the new CEO is not, has just joined relatively recently. You also got elevated to this role as well. So, in a way, you have a fresh team, so to say. Of course, your predecessor, now he heads the UK side, from what I understand. So, but what do you think, what is changing even in the last few days or last, in the time since the new CEO has come in? Is there some change that's happening? Because generally when leadership changes, you see changes that happen, right, in the way things are done. So what are you seeing there?
So again, it's good. Last almost closer to 2 months now, Hiral joining us, and change. What I'm seeing, a lot of energy, lots and lots of energy, and in addition to energy, now what we are talking about, how should we shape next 3 years? We are not talking about FY22. FY22 is done. We know our numbers. We have, those sales, those renewals, the new business wins, whatever you have built will deliver those kind of growth. Now, what we are talking about, what FY25 is going to look like. And that's what we are working with Hiral, saying what capability which we need to invest upon to drive new growth. What are different, so we call it Horizon 3, which we are naming as saying, what new technologies, new services we need to build internally so that we can start talking about how we'll exit FY25. That's a change. We are fixing a lot of internal gaps, saying, there are certain capabilities which we are focusing upon. How can we go more deeper? So if healthcare and life sciences we see as a strong pillar on which we can grow, then how do we invest in that ahead of the curve so that that sector should grow much more than the company is growing? There's a different change in the overall perspective. As I said, energy is high and we are fixing the gaps talking about FY25.
Right. So since you're talking about FY25, any kind of quantitative goals that you all have in terms of where the revenue could be, where margins could be, or just in terms of what verticals that you talked about healthcare, for example, just so where all you could be. For example, other thing is now the new CEO is going to be the US. So obviously looks like US, you guys are not that strong in US. You're not strong in BFSI compared to, let's say, many of your peer group, right? So are those going to be the focus? What are you seeing? So what is that FY25 journey looking like?
So again, it will be keep forming and reforming, but as of today, the focus is definitely US. US has to grow much faster than the growth of the overall organization, so that even UK, Middle East, other geographies are also growing, but US has to grow much faster. And that was one of the reasons, the new group CEO was hired, who is based out of US as a location. That was done intentionally. Now we are talking about verticals, then definitely healthcare is important, financial services is important, retail is one of the a strong pillar of Mastek, but the industry itself has different challenges, So diversifying into other segment is equally important. So we are focusing on manufacturing sector as well, specifically into our Oracle offering. Because we have certain tools, capabilities which we have created in the Oracle implementation space, where we are able to compete with a lot of big service players. Our strengths are much better a lot of times, by which we are able to win and grow. Now,
Right.
what we are talking about is the integrated solutioning. So, for example, one of the term internally we use is a D2X, digital to everything. So that was done in US. Now we have taken it to global. What we are doing there, talking to customers, saying, this is how you acquire your customers. This is how you solve your supply chain backend problem, and this is how you do your backend processing into Oracle. So we have, all three pillars kind of aligned together. Started seeing good results in non-retail segment in the US market. Last year, we acquired some 7 to 8 customers in non-retail, having revenue more than $1 billion. They having the revenue more than $1 billion, which talked about their wallet size in terms of IT spend, which gives a lot of space in terms of mine and grow the account. Recently, last 6 months, we are seeing those D2X propositions are making a lot of sense in Australia, Europe, and other markets as well. So internally, we are planning to take those particular offerings global, so that we can build upon what has been already developed. So these are certain callouts, but our goal is, Sanjeev, is to grow much faster than the sector itself. That's our internal ambition. We don't give guidance, so I will not be able to share the numbers, Sanjeev, but growing better than the sector is our ambition internally.
Right.
Nothing less
Right.
than that. And anything less will be disappointment, to be honest. Third, in terms of US and the overall growth, we are also talking about the M&A. We have spoken about it in the past, and so we continue to do that. Because we are not of that great size in the US market at the moment, roughly $50-55 million in size. Our ambition is to make it much bigger, and hence acquisition, since we have the cash wallet with us, and acquisition
Okay.
is the strategy. Our focus is let's acquire in the US market, so that you are able to get the capability and the size itself. And the capability is again universal thereafter. You can take those capability into the UK, Europe, and other markets as well at the same time. So that's broadly which we are thinking internally, in addition to building other capabilities and service offerings, which will, make our overall goal of growing better than market possible.
Right. So you talked about building up capabilities, like things like, you keep hearing, and again, as a layman, like AI, ML, all these kind of capabilities, and you say that, these are like, from what I hear, that's an expensive resource today to hire, who have all these kind of things. What do you think, so as you build capabilities, do you think from a cost structure perspective, will your cost grow faster than, your growth in revenue, or how does that work?
I don't think so, because already we do AI ML at this point of time.
Right.
We have customers where we are giving RPA solutions both in the UK and Europe market. We have done in with Indian customers as well. We are taking into US, and recently we have got one client where a portion of AI ML is also involved. Those costs is already embedded into our cost structure with
Right.
certain ratios. As we grow, those costs will also grow, but they will give the return, because those businesses are growing quite rapid. I'm not worried from the margin perspective. That's what I'm understanding your question to be. The cost is growing much faster than the revenue. I'm not that worried because all this AI ML specifically generates so much of benefits for the customers that your pricing takes care for your margins.
Hmm. Fair point. So last question, again, going back to a bit of organizational question on my side. In terms of stock options, retaining, senior talent and so on, what is the thought process?
Again, stock options has been always the part of Mastech culture. So we followed two twin analogy. One was to take care of the high talent across grades. As we speak, we are more focusing upon the a particular grades and above, which are senior management, because a part of their compensation has to be stock options. So there the focus is at this point of time. Wider organization, we are revisiting and thinking whether that is needed, or with this wage war which is going on, where more take home and salary makes more sense for the people. Does it really make sense to get into stock option? And we are starters, but there's a lot of maturity as well into the system. There are a lot of long-standing people at the same time. So more we believe at this point of time, the senior leadership and one down, two down, who are critical for the organization should be, taken care through stock options, and rest of the organization should be more on, fixed come variable kind of a salary profile to take care of the market nuances as well as.
Right. Okay, great. Devashish, I'll hand this to you now to take the next questions.
Yes, thank you, Sanjeev, and thanks, Arun, for starting those conversation in so well, and it has always been like that. So, Arun, whatever Sanjeev has asked, it's more about more towards macro and the direction of Mastech. So, I want to take some of the discussions forward, and I have three parts of question. One is around UK business, one is around US business, and third one is overseas business. So let me start with the UK business and try to understand that what exactly has changed, although you have, kind of touched upon it. So if I see your UK business today, it has grown around 25% CAGR for last 3 years. The 60 crore quarterly run rate has become 190 crore quarterly run rate today. So obviously you have entered into your existing client, penetrated them, but also what has happened is in the last 1.5 years specifically, you've entered into new government departments. And if I understand correctly, those are the departments where maximum amount of budget has come in after Brexit. So how exactly you see that opportunity? Do you think that this 25% kind of growth is there to stay for next 2 to 3 years? What is the kind of order book? What is the pipeline you see there?
Okay, so very good reading of the numbers, Devashish, to be honest. And you rightly got it saying UK public sector specifically is growing very, very nicely last 2 years and after COVID. And after Brexit clarity, to be honest, and that's what we had always spoken about, that, in the Brexit kind of 1 year there was when Theresa May government was under challenge and Boris Johnson, he came over. During that period, a lot of decision making was under stall, and nothing was getting concluded, and hence you were not getting the. It was more renewal, which was happening rather than getting new business. And as those clarity came on, we started getting the advantage of it. So again, just to give you a very quick database, roughly 12 billion is what the spend of UK public sector government, and our share is what 80, 85 million, 90 million pound. So our size is very small. So there is significant headroom to grow. That's one point. Just to tell you that opportunity is much larger. That's one. Second, the agenda of government is very clear. UK government, they don't want to work only with the biggest players. They're talking about, even one of our customers are talking about, even when we contract, you need to have 3 other partners with you. Maybe 30% of revenue, but you need to bring other 3 partners so that the small business as well with a niche service capability are able to grow in the geography. So government agenda is very clear. They don't want only biggies only to keep getting the contract, but they want niche service provider to keep getting, increasing their share, and which is reflected into our numbers on the back of strong delivery track record which we have in that particular market. So headroom is quite large. Pipeline is also solid. Our twin strategy is also working well. Our twin strategy in public market sector is mind the existing account. Okay. So assume we were doing 5 million business. Now, how can we do 20 million business with them? Right. If we're doing 20 million business, how can we do 50 million business? Because the wallet size of all those departments is much larger than what we are doing. So that's one strategy. Second strategy is opening up of new departments, taking the referenceability and the good tech, because there also we are able to drive business outcomes on the back of technology. So which we have done for, say, Home Office, we have done for Ministry of Defense, or we have done for NHS, or we have done for now HMRC. How can we go and talk to other departments as well and open the relationship? So that's the twin growth strategy which we are focusing upon the market. And the change which we have done, and again, this come to business outcome as a model. We don't go and approach customers saying what you want. We have created a lot of relationship internally, and we have also created a lot of consultants who know how these departments are working, because they have been participating with their department in their overall conversations, right? Those are helping us in terms of getting the technical or the awareness about the outcome which government is looking for, not the IT solution. And then we are going and talking to the department saying, this is your plan and this is how we can fix it. All this investment which has been done in terms of bringing those consultants in terms of ensuring we have good account management team for this public sector, government procurement style change where they want more and more niche service provider getting the business rather than big SIs put together, and the growth in the government investments, because they have clearly mentioned they want to digitize everything. They
Right.
don't want to be manual in anything. And with Brexit, given stuff, even they need to take care of the orders as well. More from customs, from income tax, and for so many other revenue related items, in addition to immigration and borders. So there's a tremendous opportunity, Devasys. It's the scale at which we have to keep enhancing. You cannot become a customer department where you're serving 20 million, cannot become 100 million in a day. So it's
Absolutely.
a journey which we have to take. And just to give you one quick data, Home Office 4 years back, though we have multiple contracts, but one particular order which was 12 million pound for 3 years, Q4 last year got renewed with 27 million pound 3 years, with
Wow.
50% contingency included into it, which can go up to 5 years.
Right.
So that's a change which is happening gradual. But again, it cannot happen overnight.
Yeah, understood. So another related question is, you recently won, a part of the 800 million pound deal that we have spoken. So just wanted to understand how this deals are normally getting structured, because we have now not seen these kind of deals coming from the government for a very long period of time. Now, if you see what is the kind of contour of this deal, how this deal structured, how we as a Mastech as a company is present there, what are the kind of opportunities that we can get out of it? And once we complete this execution, can our game will change as far as the overall deal size is concerned with the government?
No, that's good question, Devashi. So 800 million framework which government spoke about is the overall framework. Now they are going to release, and they are releasing now. They have started releasing a lot because we are seeing some good deals in the pipeline. 5 million, 10 million, 20 million kind of deals in the pipeline. More in the
Right.
range of 5 and 10, maybe 1 or 2 in the range of higher number.
Right.
Whereby, all the out of 12 players who fits into the technical fitment they have to come and bid for those deals, compete and win. So what this framework has given us, it has given us the license to bid now. Firstly,
Okay.
we have to fight with the competition. We have to keep proving what we have delivered in the past. We have good referenceability. We have to keep proving it down the line. So it's not a free license. It's just a
Understood.
license to participate in the competitive bidding. But yes, under this framework, we have started seeing the deals coming, and it can change the complete game as we start winning those deals. But
Understood.
you'd be aware of that, NHS has gone through some of the turbulence because of that particular news which came out. One of the relative of the Prime Minister himself was part of PPE kit and other stuff, kind of.
Yeah.
So at the moment, NHS, all the contracts are under rebate. So, because they have to renew everything in a proper framework so that the allegation can be taken away. So you do it, right? So that's what is happening at this point of time. And hence their backlog has increased significantly. Not only the new one, the old ones also has come for conclusion now. There in terms of rebidding and finding out the new vendor as per the protocol and the frameworks, and then accordingly giving the contract to them for 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, depending upon each and every contract. So their bandwidth at the moment is choked, but we believe it's more Q4 story now. Q3 end or Q4 story in terms of them coming and newer more bid coming into that 800 million framework.
Correct. Understood. So basically, you are saying the crisis in the government is giving an opportunity for us to grow at a faster pace. That is what is happening.
It is, and government want to invest. At least in UK public sector is very clear. Their digitalization agenda is an opportunity.
Right. Right. The third thing is an observation that I have. If I see UK government performance for us, it's not that only revenue has gone up. It's obviously revenue per employee has also gone up. So is it like our capability to bill the customer has gone up, our pricing power has gone up, or the overall billing structure for the government has gone up? How did that happen? What exactly was the counter behind it?
See, again, if you notice, UK public sector is predominantly your on-sold business, right? On-sold rates are much higher than the offshore rates. So if your government business is increasing, your per person revenue will increase as a weighted, right? And also now as we are getting into more niche and the digital per se, the kind of requirement which we are getting, more senior and tenured people, or a combination where the seniority is much higher, the bills are higher, billing rates are higher.
Right.
And what we are seeing, UK government, we have never seen any challenge in terms of billing rate.
Okay.
If what you're delivering is of a caliber, you get the billing rates out there. So that's more of a challenge to be discussed for the private sector, not for the public sector. Thank you.
Understood. Again, coming back to UK Europe, I think one part of the UK Europe business which is less talked about Mastech is the private sector of UK Europe also, because that is equal of the size of the government. I mean, that is growing at a similar pace, right? So, I mean, does the government penetration or the capability with the governments have helping us to get into the private projects there, or how the contour that then on that side is happening? So, what exactly? Because if I see today, most of the IT companies are trying to penetrate Europe as a market, even the larger size organizations, and we are historically very strong there, and the private business also growing at 20-25% rate for us. So how do you see that opportunity going forward? Is it a momentum that is moving up, or it is like getting into a level of stagnation from here on? How do you see that? Because our presence is specifically in the retail and healthcare and those areas of UK. And that's a less talked part of Mastech as far as I understand. So if you can tell me that.
Sure. So Debashish, UK private sector and now getting into Europe, even we have got a couple of deals last year with Evosys acquisition.
Yeah.
We are also focusing upon Europe as a market, but gradually, because the kind of contracting is a little different. You need to be present in some of the countries to sign those contracts. With certain nuances, but still we want to grow in the Europe as a market. Now coming to UK as a market, yes, Mastech has good share of revenue and financial services, retail has been our significant focus in the past. We saw some of the turbulence when COVID impacted, because private sector came into predicting their cost immediately.
Mm-hmm.
But there were correction in first 6 months of last year, and thereafter we have now seen, and the same I was talking to Sanjeev. Now those customers are talking about digital transformation, because they cannot survive just doing IT. They need to approach their customers differently. They need to approach their backend differently, and then they have to take care of their housekeeping as well. So customers now coming to us and talking about digital transformation. So in the FS space also we are seeing the same thing. In the retail space also we are seeing the same thing. In terms of referenceability of what we have done in public sector, is that helping in the private sector? My answer would be probably no. They are completely different space of business. And but yes, the investment which we have made in the UK private sector, we have hired a head of sales I think it was somewhere in March or February last year. But now we are building a team of hunters under him, very strong, talented people. We are working on cross-sell and co-sell. As you'd be knowing, Evosys is able to open roughly 30 to 40 customers across geography in a quarterly basis.
Right.
In Mastech, always the challenge is, getting the new customers, because the competition, the landscape, everything is different. So
Right.
Getting inside is more difficult, but once we get inside, historically, our mining has been very significant. So our repeat business was more than 90% historically. Now Evosys is coming to us and they're able to open the accounts. Now the solution which you're talking about is the integrated deal solutioning, where at the time of RFP or the initial stage itself, we don't talk only about the Oracle, but we talk about the total, what Mastech can deliver as a solution to the customer. That's one part, depending upon what is the wallet size of the customer, and whether the customer is interested at that point of time or not. That's stage one. If we are not able to penetrate at that point of time, then at the second stage, once Evosys is able to open the account, then Mastech account management team insert there and try to build up the relationship and get into mining of more service offerings which we have as a Mastech console.
Okay.
So that's the game plan. I believe is working well and will help us in the medium to long term to grow the private sector as well.
Great. So this take me to the Evosys part of my question. So as you already pointed out, Evosys has changed certain things for us, and I think this is a brilliant acquisition as far as Mastech is concerned. So if you can help me to understand, although you have touched upon it, how our discussion with the client changes after Evosys came into the picture? Because earlier we were completely service oriented. Today we have become a solution oriented. How our discussion with the clients have changed? What is the kind of deal size that we are seeing, that whether that is growing for us or not?
No, Devashish, it has been a different experience both sides. So even if you talk to any Evosys sales people, they're saying we are getting seat at the table for the clients where we were not invited earlier, because you get the balance sheet size, right?
Okay.
That's one. Second, when you go and talk to the customers, as I said, customers are looking for their business solutions. They are no more interested from the IT. So whenever any customer wants you to implement Oracle ERP, that's not the only system which is going to be touched. There's so many other systems where data migration has to happen, or integrators need to work. And thereafter you create a comprehensive landscape for the customer to get end-to-end outcome. So that's where the sales people are enjoying the conversation with the customers, because now as a Mastech, we offer 100% complete solution out there, saying, we can do data migration for you, we can implement Oracle ERP, and we can create the integrators with other legacy system which you have, and we can modernize them as well. Got my point? So that's the interesting part. There's an interesting landscape when you are talking to customers. That's one part. But what it does, it changes your deal sizes at the same time.
Right.
Last year, when we announced a lot of joint go-to-market deals where we got 6 million, 7 million, 5 million kind of a size. So as we do more and more integrated solutioning, our deal sizes will increase. That's one. Second, because of Mastech and Evosys coming together, the average deal sizes of Evosys is also increasing. And just to give you very quick data, the time we acquired, the average deal size was less than 500K. Now it is more closer to going closer to $1 million.
Okay.
So that's and this is average I'm talking about. Still, they are lower size, they are higher size, but the average is going up because they are able to go and talk to those customers which they were not able to do it earlier.
Right, understood. One kind of worry that I have in my mind about Evosys. So, to some extent, it's an opportunity also. If I see most of the ERP players in India, in India or the world today, they are having a kind of balance between legacy coming down and the cloud moving up. Net, their business is not growing. But if I see Oracle's overall performance and Evosys performance, there is a significant difference into it. So so the query that I have is, does Evosys only service the cloud part of Oracle, or it is linked to the entire Oracle chain? But at the end of the day, you are gaining market share, or mind share, and that's why you are growing at a faster pace.
So again, we are talking about Oracle ERP, SCM, right? Right. If you notice, we were doing so Evosys was doing legacy in the past. The cloud is last 3 to 4 years story.
Right.
So the capability wise, both are there. Still, we have certain customers whom we are serving on the legacy platform in terms of their maintenance and other stuff. New customers are no legacy as such. New customers are on cloud. Even if I'm not wrong, Oracle is talking about discontinuing of offering the legacy services. Maybe the maintenance will continue. Upgrades also will stop after a certain period of time. So those things will happen, right? So now if you see, the story is cloud. I don't see any reason why customer will come buy an Oracle product and will choose legacy versus cloud. They will choose the cloud, right? It makes all the sense for anyone. So now the growth is all driven by cloud.
Understood. I understand one thing, that Evosys is too much glued to Oracle, so maybe will not be able to penetrate SAP through that capability or through that name. But do you think that the new age ERP players, what we call it, like Microsoft of the world, so do you kind of think that our existing capability of acquiring Evosys, I mean, which has come through Evosys acquisition, will help us to penetrate those hyperscalers or the players who are growing at a faster pace in the US? So do you think that is a kind of opportunity that Evosys is throwing us?
So if you ask me, SAP is not in our game plan, because we are using SAP Attack as our offerings. Right. So where we are preferred partner of Oracle. Whenever Oracle want to attack SAP, Evosys is not because we have created so many tools inside which can show customer that this will be the journey I'm going to take you through, and we are able to put our skin into the game and get the money also by delivering the outcome. That's what we have seen so far. So SAP is not a part of the game as we speak. But if you say Microsoft and so many other service providers, I'll not say ERP, but we are also working on different service offerings. So Microsoft is one of our old ally, where we have done .NET and so many other stuff we have done with Microsoft. And as we speak, we have also strengthened our partnership with Microsoft. We are doing a lot of internal development internally for, again, if you talk to our CIO, he'll talk about a lot, but since I work very closely with him, we are talking about changing the complete internal infrastructure of Mastech to digital, which is a combination of Microsoft, and other ERP which we are using in combination of data lake and other solutions. So that's one part of it. Definitely, once we do it, we are going to take it to market as well. Microsoft is also very keen, saying what you guys are doing is very unique. We will make our offering. So that's a partnership attitude. And similarly, Microsoft also does lot of stuff, which other customers. So again, they have different offerings for different verticals, and we are also partner to them, whereby we work with Microsoft as one of the offering, and we are going to enhance that. Recently, when last week, when we met Microsoft, our whole intention is how can we strengthen the partnership out there? How can we work with them in terms of building multiple tools on top of it, different capabilities? And it could be ERP kind of, but it's more about capabilities, which finally helps customers getting the competitive advantage per se. So that's also part of it. But we are not stopping at Microsoft. So we have so many other partners ecosystem internally. Again, there will be two combination. One partners who are already established, like Microsoft,
Right.
Oracle, which is already established. But we are also focusing upon next gen partnership. A not so well known company, but they are creating a product, or they have created a product which we believe will be successful after 3 years.
Okay.
Right? Knowing now is very important, because like ServiceNow, 10 years back it was not a known name, but ServiceNow is known for what they can offer right now. So identify those kind of partners at the initial stage is always the advantage. So we are working with both the strategy, Devashish, if I have to sum it up.
Yeah, understood. So one interesting thing that I have seen in the mid-cap IT companies specifically, they were acquiring a lot of capabilities as far as their platform and solution is concerned, because that is helping them to entering into the names that we were just discussing. So productization of services, that is the new term. Okay, so at what level we are as Mastech, because Evosys has started that journey for us as far as I understand. So at what stage we are where we can say, let's say 2 years, 3 years down the line, or maybe today, we have this much of solutions and platform which is helping us to create a stickiness with my customers and giving a non-linearity revenue to us. Do you have this kind of thought process in your mind, and how do you address that?
So that's what I said initially, Horizon 3. So Horizon 3 is where we are talking about different level of capabilities. It could be platform, it could be any niche or other service offerings which Mastech don't deliver at this point of time.
Yeah,
it will drive a next level of growth for Mastech. That's one part of it. Second, at the point we are in, we need a lot of capabilities to. So we have good customers, right? And in those customers, if we are going and saying we have 1, 2, 3, but we know if we can add 4 and 5, we can easily sell. So our average deal sizes will go up, our customer stickiness will go up, and we become a partner of choice for them, right? Because we're giving everything. So in a short term, the whole attention is 4 and 5, and getting those service lines which can go well with the existing offerings. That's one. Second is to develop and build certain verticals. For example, healthcare and life sciences is our sweet spot. Manufacturing is something which we want to build from the Oracle ERP capability perspective.
Right. So
financial services has been good in UK market, but how can we take that offering and make it global?
Yeah.
D2X has been strong in the US. How can we take it to global? But to make all of this so successful, we need to keep building tools and methodology inside. I'll not call them platforms, but more tools and frameworks which helps customer to get the outcome much quickly. Something which can be done in 6 months, we want to make it happen in 3 months. So our investment in the initial term will go into this direction. And the Horizon 3, which we are talking something to build up in next 3 years, is what exactly which you are saying, Devashish, because that's the long-term solution. How can you get the stickiness of the customer? We're talking about platforms, even just to, and you can say IP-based, it may not be platform, it can be your IPs.
Absolutely.
For example, one of the IP which we have is a workforce scheduler. So for example, Oracle does not have that solution. So when they compete with Workday, there's a challenge. Or they have to buy Kronos or something else, customer, to solve that. We have created that IP in-house. So rather than you buying the Kronos and then integrating with Oracle, I can give you this scheduler, which will integrate with your Oracle product as such. We have not, we have very few customers where we have commercialized it, but got your point. That's exactly is the Horizon 3 which we are talking.
Understood. Do you think that once the investment phase in these tools and solutions or IPs that you are talking about, do you think that 3 years down the line, these are the business which will be very, very high scalable with a higher margin? Because initial investment is understood, but after that, what? I mean,
It will be. And as you rightly said, because it will give you stickiness of the customer at the same time.
mhm. Understood. Two more questions on Evosys. One is linked to the merger that we have in a process. So, at what level of merger we are in Evosys, and when is it is expected to be getting completed?
So from the accounts and the financial perspective, is consolidated completely because the deal was done from day one. However,
Right.
in terms of issuing these shares, which we have to issue to the promoters,
Yeah.
at the last stage with NCLT, and I think hearing is in the first week of September. If that hearing goes as planned, in September or early October, all process will be completed. Is that the
Okay.
last step?
Okay. One last question about Evosys. So, if I see Evosys was acquired through your US subsidiary, do you have this thought that like the Majesco got listed separately after some time, Evosys also have a potential to got listed and do value unlocking for shareholders? Do you have these plans in mind?
At the moment, no, Devashish, but it's a good thought you have given to me.
Great. Okay, so now I'm coming to the last part of our discussion, which is US. And obviously, US cannot start with Hiral joining us. So, if you can tell me, Sanjeev has already, kind of asked this question, but I want to get little more understanding from you. That normally, if I see today a new CEO joining, normally does 4 to 5 things with the company, changing the pay structure, especially the incentive structure, verticalizing the company, or third one is hiring very aggressive next level leaders, and then focusing on the new business, and fifth one is acquisition. Okay, so Hiral is already 2 months with us. So exactly what area you see that these are the things which is really moving very fast for us among this five?
So initial feedback which I got from him, he loved the management team. And
Okay.
this management team has been built on last 5 years. So if you talk about Abhishek, who was the earlier CFO and now the head of
Yeah.
UK business, is a
Right.
caliber person.
Yeah.
Raman Sapra, whom we hired 2 years back, and that was after 3 changes, has
Yeah.
built the D2X proposition, which we are not selling in US now, we are taking globally.
Yeah.
Has a caliber which has been proven internally. And so the other leaders, and we have invested into CDO, we have invested into CIO. Umang and Rakesh comes from the Evosys acquisition, and Umang, what he has developed, as Evosys, this goes with all the proven track record. So initial feedback, he is quite impressed with the leadership team. He doesn't want to change any of them. But yes, as I mentioned, certain practice, certain capability is what we felt missing, and where the focus of Hiral is going a lot, saying how can we fix those capability. That's one, which will give you, next 12 months growth plan, because then when you're offering to customers, you are able to comprehensively offer it with all the
Okay.
arrowheads working well. So that's one of the area. But at the same time, his focus is more on Horizon 3, talking about FY25, because see, 12 months is done. You
Right.
cannot do anything which will give you results for 6 months. Now you have to start thinking which will give you a result from 13 to 36 months. So
Right.
there the head of Hiral is saying, how can I work into different service lines? How can I create those service lines which will give us revenue of say $100 million, just for the example. This is a
Yeah.
different number which you're talking when we exit FY25. So there, the mind of Hiral is investing into a marketing capability. How can our brand, so highly respected by the customers whom we work for, how can we aware of in the
Leverage
markets
that.
where we are operating? So when we go to US market, in a client, we should not be explaining what Mastech is. We should be able to explain what Mastech can deliver for you, right?
Right.
So those kind of marketing and branding the organization is very, very important. That's the quick points which he's focusing a lot. M&A is very critical. He's also focusing upon M&A. I'm working with him and so the other leaders. How can we acquire those capabilities? So again, the strategy is very clear. You have something which you need to sharpen. You need to create certain partnership and need to acquire certain business. All three combinations will help you to meet your next 12 to 24 months strategy. So that's one part which is focusing upon, and to some of practice, partnership, blah, blah, blah. And the second is Horizon 3, which is different service lines, service offerings, platforms, IPs, which can help you to deliver growth the 24 months onward. So this is what his focus is as we speak.
Understood. So, have we seen any change in incentive structure after he joining in? Because that is what, as we have already spoken about hunting and mining team separating. So, do we see the incentive structure changing significantly for large size deal signing and smaller size deal signing and all that?
There are few changes which have happened, and the focus is on large size deal. But again, Devashish, we had good incentive scheme in the company. But yes, some few changes has happened there.
Understood. So two last question, obviously around US. So you said, we all know we are talking for some time now. So if I see US is a kind of market which is targeted by everybody today, right? I mean, now today you are entering into US market. Obviously, I have some capabilities which I can cross sell. So which are the areas you think that you can come and target initially in the US market, which is kind of less penetrated by other players, and how do you think that which are the sectors, which are the you may not be mentioning the name of the company, which are the service lines? How do you think that the US market should be planned in this way to get into a growth zone? Because if I see last 3-4 years, US as a business has not grown significantly for us. So do you think that what are the strategies on that side?
So very good question, Devashish. But again, you need not to think about new service lines. What you have, where you have the referenceability and capabilities, is what you need to take to US market first of all. So that's one of the strategy. Second strategy is to mine the existing customers. So as I mentioned, Evosys is able to open a lot of customers in the US market as well. And we are seeing a lot of good traction coming in healthcare and life sciences and manufacturing as well in the US market.
Understood.
The accounts. So penetrating into those relationships, because what you can offer maybe offered by other players as well. But at the same time, how you execute for them is a differentiator. How nimble you are, how agile you are, how solution oriented you are. And that's where Mastek comes with a differentiating power. As I said, we are not talking to customers saying, I can solve this technology problem with you. We're talking about this is the business outcome, we can give it to you. And we are able to put our skin into the game as well, depending upon whether customers want our skin or not. So the market for us is completely open. We are mining the existing relationship as we speak. Last 4 customers which we have acquired are from big players.
Okay.
It's just about how we can approach and the nimbleness at which we are approaching the solution we're able to offer. So fixing those practices, the gaps which we have, will make us much more relevant to those customers. So if you are able to offer 3 things, if you can offer 5 things, will become much more relevant. I think that's something which we are focusing upon. Our strategy in terms of going more aggressive with the customers and able to put our skin into game, which we can deliver, is going to be very, very strong from our side. The cross-sell and co-sell is going to play a significant relationship, because the ability of Evosys to open the account, and US is all private customers, there is no public sector.
Yes.
So ability to open those accounts is a significant advantage to us. So I'm not worried from US as a perspective now that we can't grow. The only problem is our size is very small. Even if I grow at 50%, 50 million will become 75 million. But 75 million still we are not relevant.
Yes.
And hence the acquisition is important, and hence bringing other Horizon 3 services in terms of platform, tools, capabilities, different service lines is important to make it 200 plus, just for the sake of discussion.
Right. Understood. So when you think of penetrating US market, one way of doing it is, we have seen TCS does that in the past, offering lower billing rate or offering higher receivable days. That's how they penetrate, right? So do you think that, do you see that happening with us also, or we are completely averse to that?
No, so we are not a cost player. So if customer is talking about business outcome, we are the partner for choice. If customer is looking for lower billing rate, we can't compete with TCS or any other players as well.
Correct.
So we don't compete on price.
Correct. Understood. Last question around acquisition, because you have already talked about this quite a time. So question is, you have 900 crores of cash chest, which is a significant amount considering the size that we have. So do we see like a large size acquisition from us in next 6-8 months, or do we see a smaller size multiple acquisitions which will give us capability? Which direction? And why I'm asking this question is what we have seen in the past is one IT services acquiring another large IT services, both of them die together. Yeah. So yeah.
Devasis, that's a good point, and we are open for both at the moment.
Okay.
As our hunting point, our strategy is very clear. It has to be a good capability which we are acquiring. It has to be US market. Significant portion has to be US market. Is our criteria, and the
Right.
capabilities also which we have identified internally where we want to invest. And we are hunting with that target. However, if it is smaller size, $15-20 million, there can be multiple. If we are getting $50-60-70 million, it could be one, right? So at the moment, we are not binding ourselves with that. It completely depends upon the asset and our confidence that we will be able to multiply the asset. So even 20 million is also okay, and 50 million is also okay. So we are open at the moment, and we are not talking about $200-3 million kind of a revenue. Talking about, and this number I spoke in terms of revenue, 20 million size or 50 million size. So depending upon the asset which we get, which fits into our capability, fits into our value culture, and we believe 1 + 1 will become 3. I think we will not be worried with between these sizes.
Right. Last question. We have seen Mastech growing at a
It's
significant
becoming,
rate.
with last question. Is it too last question?
But I can't resist asking this question because we have seen Mastech growing such a significant pace, whether at the top line, bottom line. I mean, entire balance sheet structure has changed and everything. So, do our investors can expect the same kind of momentum continuing at least in FY 22-23?
So Devasis, as I mentioned, our endeavor is to grow better than the market, and the market is growing so healthy. If you are able to outpace the market, I think what you have seen is where we are.
Great. I am done with my question. Sanjeev,
just one thing from me. So basically, just clarification. When you said acquisition, is that only going to be to bolster US? Is that what you're thinking, or
So our focus is significant portion should come from US.
Right.
Because we don't want to tie to US completely, because if there's a capability, a new capability which we are taking on, and if they have 10-20% coming from UK and Europe, will be an advantage, because
Right.
then you have certain customer base, you have the UK and Europe presence, and you can take big bang those capability into the market. So, but significant portion should be US, because as I mentioned to Devasis, even 50% I grow from here, still I'm not relevant in the US market.
Right.
So getting size is also equally important.
So what is relevant? $100 million, you think you'll be okay when you reach that number, at least as a first milestone?
So at the moment, our ambition, which we are talking, saying if we are roughly 15% to 17% of our overall revenue come from the US market, at least we want to double it.
Right. Fair point. Okay, I think that's great. Arun, thank you so much for spending time. I think I think you're already sounding excited, and I think this journey seems exciting as well. And I think next 5 years could be really amazing. So all the very best to their team and everyone.
Thank you, Sanjeev. Thank you, Devasis. Thank you, everyone. I hope all your questions are answered. Take care.
Yeah, so
have a nice
whatever
day.
questions you have put on chat, I think almost all of them have also been answered. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Take care. Bye.